And one of the key elements that we need to provide our beginning readers or struggling readers is a strong text selection. So mostly today we're going to be talking about decodable text and how much that matters. And we're going to talk about different features of those decodable texts and also kind of talk about why it makes such a difference. Why do decodable texts matter? When our kids are coming to the book for the first time, they're coming to a book as a beginning child, and they don't know how our written code works. And so we need to pass along the truth that our language is a code for sounds. And they need to get the concept of the alphabetic principle that our written language is a code for sounds. Can you show us some codes in there? Like there we've got, in the beginning, there's the box. That is the code for box. And then we put it together, we make the word box. So that is something that a young kid has to figure out. And then they have to get that concept, but then they have to put it into practice. So where's the best place for them to practice this concept about how our code works? Well, it's probably with a text that doesn't have a lot of complicated words on the page. So let's find a page that's pretty simple. There's nothing more simple than that, right? Mm-hmm. Let's show that. We'll look at this in more depth in a minute. This says, I am fox, I am pig. So it is constrained so that the student can take her knowledge of how our code works and put it into practice with a simple text that is controlled, not the whole world of English on all the words that we could possibly use, but something controlled and constrained that focuses on what she may have learned so far. And it's a lot easier to read a 3-sound word than to read a 6-sound word. Fox is easier than stomp, right? Okay, so let me show you then what you need to think about with those beginners or anyone who's struggling. They first need to get the alphabetic principle, this concept that how our code works. And that's simply just knowing that, oh, that's fox, and that translates to fox. Then they need to blend the sounds like I just did. Fox is what word?
Fox.
And then put those two things together with a decodable text, a text that's not too complex, that has a focus on short words, targeted vowel sounds. And this would be an example. And when those things come together, alphabetic principle, blending ability, and mostly decodable text, those kiddos are going to be set with a strong sound-based decoding foundation. And that's the foundation on which good reading is built. Okay? But a lot of our kids are getting something different. Many kids are starting with predictable texts, a text like, I am a bear, I am a fox, I am a
pig.
Yes. And the student doesn't actually have to apply that information we talked about before. The student can make a guess based on the picture and other features of the text. And so what happens to that student is that student learns some other strategies for how to figure out words. A lot of them revolve around guessing or trying to memorize the way a word looks without connecting sound and symbol, or at least not connecting them very strongly. And that can lead a student astray. By the way, whichever text you choose, some kids will learn to read no matter what. So don't be deceived. Yes, this approach right here will work for many kids. This approach will work for almost all kids. So that's what's tricky. And then when you see them in kindergarten, they may be doing great with the predictable books or the books that are mostly high frequency. But then in first grade or second grade or third grade, somewhere along the line, usually before third or fourth grade, they start to struggle because they cannot memorize all the words in the English language. So what I propose to you instead of building on the rocky foundation is this. Okay? And this is the main takeaway for today that I want to encourage you all to kind of stick with and share it with others. So would you mind reading it to us, Tessa?
No, I would not. Beginning readers need mostly decodable text to develop strong sound-based decoding skills.
Cheatham and Allard did this study of 6 different research studies, which is not a huge amount in reading research world because there is a ton of reading research out there. But nevertheless, 6 is better than 0. And what did they find when they looked across all of those? They found that
collectively, the results indicate that decodability is a critical characteristic of early reading text, as it increases the likelihood that students will use a decoding strategy and results in an immediate benefit, partially with regard to accuracy.
Yeah, particularly with regard to accuracy. Okay, so what are they saying? That when a student encounters, they encounter a text like this, where they have the ability to attack words, there's a book, from a decoding perspective and not have to make guesses, and they don't have to entirely rely on the picture, then they're more likely to put into practice the thing that they've been working on. If they've been studying a particular letter-sound relationship and phonemic awareness, then they can apply it in this text. And if they are given a text that says, that doesn't break this pattern, but keeps going with this pattern, I am a fox, I am a pig, I am a dog, I am a cow, I am a bunny, I am a horse, then they don't apply it. But this one doesn't just keep going with that same pattern where the child's brain can be turned off and all they need to do is look at the picture. But this one requires the student to actually start to look at each of these little words with reading simplified principles, because with reading simplified, we often find that kids can learn the code in about 12 weeks. So they don't have to read these types of texts, which I'm going to show you in a minute, forever and ever. It's a short period of time. In this diagram, the purple element, teaching decoding, that comes first. Getting sound symbol associations learned, or getting them on the right path, which we talked about earlier, is important from the beginning. And then early on, but not immediately, then you start adding in high frequency words. So that's what this bubble comes in a little bit later. And after a good number of high frequency words have been learned, then you can work on fluency. And then over time, your focus on what you're teaching shifts. But initially, you really want those early sound symbol relationships to get stuck in the child's brain, and you want them to know how to attack words. And so a text like this is appropriate for an absolute beginner. Can you read this text? I am
Sam. I am Pam. I am blank.
Yeah, we could draw our own name in there. You could put it, you could draw in I am
Tessa.
Yeah. And then what's the last line?
Sam sat.
So that's see what the features are in there. What do you all notice about that text? Most of the words are 3 sounds or 2 sounds. There are short vowels. They're super short sentences. There's only one high frequency word, I, but it's repeated a couple times. This is an example of a passage from the Reading Simplified Academy. That is our membership where I teach the whole Reading Simplified system and how you can have just a handful of activities that can get kids to learn how to read, and then we provide the passages that link with the particular things you're teaching at various times. So this would be an example of an absolute beginner. So that's, someone who is really in this purple stage early on in the just getting started. But then after not too long with Reading Simplified Strategies, they can move on to this slightly more complex, but still decodable, mostly decodable text. Notice how many CVC words, 3 sounds there are. Okay, my friend is going to read a little bit of it loudly. Yeah.
When I turned 6, I got a bat. It is a gift from my mom. I test the bat to see if it's a good bat. Swing, swing. It's the best bat.
Okay, thank you. So we've got bat and mom and if and 6. Those are all 3 sound words. We only have a few 4 sound words like gift and coming up as best. So those are mostly decodable, but then we also have some high frequency words in there. And so that lines up with, that purple smaller bubble. The student is learning when and I and is and from. So it's still got a lot of features of a decodable text, but it's not as simple as this. We're advancing, aren't we? Then very quickly, we want to move past short vowels because kids can get stuck in a short vowel rut. Have you ever seen that? Once they learn short A, they can never branch into saying A for gate or paid or place. So we want to get out of the short vowel world as soon as possible. And so teach some advanced phonics like long vowels or the spellings. And so this one is the targeting what sound? What do you think? What sound we're targeting right here?
Ooh, I'm going to say O.
That's right. Can you read it to us?
It's my sailboat, says Joe.
This one is also just increasing the decoding complexity, but also folds in some high frequency words like says is kind of odd. Then we can get even harder when students know more and more high frequency words. But notice this one's still targeting one vowel sound further down the continuum. And so this one's targeting the
I sound.
Yes, and it's called the island. Will you read a little bit of it? Notice the I sounds.
My eyes open and I see the sky. The night is over. It is light. I am on an island.
So you see how this is mostly decodable. It's targeting one sound that a student may be learning for a particular week. But then there's the high frequency words, and then there's some things that are kind of irregular, like eyes. Island, that's right. She says Island is weird, okay? And that's why I make the point that that we need just mostly decodable text, because sometimes throwing things in there to kids that they haven't been explicitly taught yet, especially when they're there with a teacher in the in the comforting connection with the teacher, and she can give them feedback, then they can realize they need to apply what they know about the world, apply in vocabulary, play around with sounds. We call it flex it here at Read and Simplify, and then they might figure out the word themselves. So not having exclusively decodable words that are perfectly aligned with what they have learned, I think, is better because it develops cognitive flexibility and allows them to have a self-generating decoding strategy. If you really want to geek out about this, you can go read about the self-teaching hypothesis by David Scher. Self-teaching.